What is going on, guys? My name is Ben. How are you guys doing today? What I have for you today in this video is actually a video request by somebody on Instagram. And basically they wanted me to talk about how the iPod section on Apple's website was quietly removed after Apple's most recent keynote that happened on June 8th of 2015. And I just want to say thank you to that person who gave me the video request or asked for this video to be done. Really appreciate it. I will take requests. So if you guys got anything that you want me to discuss about, then go ahead and shoot me a comment somewhere, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, whatever the case may be, and I will definitely look into it. So, because this is actually an interesting topic to me as well, and I did not know this until this person mentioned it to me. And the only way you can get to the iPod section right now, because it's not completely dead, is if you go onto Apple's online store. You hit the store button, you select iPod, and there it is. Or, actually, I just found this out recently. They even have their own section for Apple Music. You get into the Apple Music section, and then you scroll all the way down to the bottom of the page, and then the iPod section should be there. Now, the iPod section was removed from Apple's main web page. What does that mean for the iPods? Well, here's the thing. Let me ask you guys this. Number one, has Apple announced any new iPods recently? No. Number two, has Apple announced any new updates for the iPods? No. Number three, has Apple announced any sales about the iPods recently? No. Why is that? Because the sales are declining these days, and Apple is more focused on the iPhones and the iPads. That if you're talking about the iOS devices, excuse me, let me rephrase that. If you're talking about the smartphone and the tablet industry, along with the computer industry as well, because of their Macs, and the iPod section didn't really get talked about a lot. And for those of you guys that aren't aware of what iPods Apple are currently selling right now, they have the iPod Shuffle, which has the button design thing. They went back to the button design from the second generation, except they integrated voiceover into it. And they have the iPod Nano, which has a touchscreen with one home button on it, and then you got the iPod Touch, which is basically this thing right here. So these things Apple quietly removed from the main page. Now you can still buy them, but once they're sold out, are they going to make more? Probably not. And I'm kind of disappointed to see these things go away. But at the same time, maybe the time has come, since these things are actually low powered compared to these things right here. Believe it or not, the iPhones are more powerful than the iPods. And now, I have seen speed tests before in the past, not just these two particular devices exactly, but past devices back in the day where the iPod Touch actually beat the iPhone in some cases. However, that doesn't mean that it'll last very long and it'll be fast for a while. I mean, iPod Touch 5th generation, this came preloaded with iOS 6, and then here we are on iOS 8. It runs very slow like crap, and I can't imagine what iOS 9 is going to be like on here. iPhone 5 right here came preloaded with iOS 6. Here it is running with iOS 8. I mean, yeah, it's got battery issues, but this thing still runs pretty quick, and iOS 9 is going to degrade the performance of this thing dramatically, and I know that by fact, because that's just how Apple software updates work. Alright, and I'm kind of sad to see the iPods are going to be going away slowly. I mean, they took down the iPod Classic, so they're not selling those anymore, and people are trying to find those brand new, and they're willing to spend like a huge amount of money for it. That money can be taken somewhere else, and you can buy something that's pretty modern. But a lot of people like the iPod Classic because you can store a lot of music on there, and I actually have one right now, but it's not working currently because I can't sync anything on it. I can turn it on, but that's pretty much garbage, and I still have it laying around. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but hopefully I'll figure something out with it, because if that thing's not working, why should I still keep it? But at the same time, I don't want to just toss it. I want to get something out of it. maybe recycle it to Apple, and then get 10% off on something else. But at the same time, if I can only use that 10% off on iPods, there's no point, because why should I get another iPod? Because I'd much rather, let's say if this was an option for me, probably not. I don't think I'll ever do this, but let's say if the iPod Classic, I was able to sell that for a certain amount of money, and at a reasonable price, even though I can't sing content or anything. That thing actually went into the washing machine one time. That was from a relative of mine, and they just gave that to me. And then sell this iPod, and then maybe get like a very good iPhone, or get an iPad. I'd probably do something like that. By the way, I'll just stick with these devices right here. I probably won't sell them. This one I just use more for entertainment. This one I use as another device alongside with my Galaxy Note 4. So I'm pretty much all set, and it's just sad to see these things going away. I mean, this thing is really nice. I do have a clear case on it, but it's very thin, and these are very good for music. And I saw one article where the Apple Watch is kind of slowly replacing the iPods, because it does have 8 gigs of internal storage on there, but from what I've heard or read, you can only sync one playlist at a time, and you have to make that playlist on your iPhone first, then sync it up with your Apple Watch, and then use Bluetooth headphones to listen to your music. And it's $50 more than the most expensive iPod Touch out there, which is 64 gigabytes. For $50 less, I'd much rather get the 64 gigabyte iPod Touch versus the Apple Watch, because the Apple Watch, as I've said it in my past videos before, I've seen no use for it, since it basically just simplifies your smartphone a little bit, and that's not what I'm looking for in a product. I'd much rather wear a regular wristwatch versus a smartwatch, because if all I can use that for is quick notifications, forget it. I don't see anything in the smartwatch market. Maybe you guys may see something, but for me, I don't. And if Apple were to get rid of the iPod lineup, I don't think they should get rid of it completely. They should at least get rid of the Nano and the iPod Shuffle, because, I mean, those things are fine, but the Shuffle can only listen to music. It's good for workouts, though. I mean, the thing's very small, but at the same time, I don't see these things being a problem when you're trying to work out and trying to carry them while you're running. And as far as the iPod Nano is concerned, that thing's very small, but if you're trying to watch movies on that, that screen is very small. I forgot the screen size for that. This is 4 inches right here, and then if the iPods do get bigger and become this kind of size, I doubt it, because they're meant to be small. I would say maybe about the size of the regular iPhone 6, or maybe they'll do like a 4.2 inch display, or a 4.5 inch display. Then I'm sure the iPod Touch will be fine. At least if they're gonna get rid of the iPods, they should at least let the iPod Touch still stay on the line, because you got people out there, especially kids, where their parents won't get them smartphones because they feel like they don't require it right now, or they just don't want to pay for the extra money. However, the kids do want a smartphone like experience, or a smartphone like device. So why not get them one of these, let them play with their apps, whatever, and then when they're ready to have a phone, they can get one. So me personally, I feel like these are more targeted for the people who don't want a smartphone, or who can't get a smartphone, and for the ones I say that don't want a smartphone, because we do have people out there who still use the regular flip phones, or the basic phones, feature phones, whatever you guys want to call it. But I'm pretty sure if they have the feature phone and then this alongside of it, it shouldn't hurt them. So I don't know, that's how I feel about the iPod section being removed from Apple's website. If they were to get rid of it, is that the right choice? If they're going to get rid of it completely, no. But if they're going to get rid of the Nano and the Shuffle and keep the iPod Touch, then I feel like that's the right move. And they just got to bump up the specs on the iPod Touch. I mean, well, why is it that the iPod Touch 5th generation, when the iPhone 5, well, other way, when the iPhone 5 came out, and then the iPod Touch 5th generation came out a few months later, Why is it that the 5th generation iPod Touch has the specs of an iPhone 4S with a camera of an iPhone 4 and not the specs of the iPhone 5 with the camera of the iPhone 5 at the time? That's what I wonder. And maybe Apple feels like the iPods don't really require a lot of power. Well, if you want your devices to last, then you definitely should put about the same power on there. And I don't know, that's all I asked for in the iPods. Maybe Apple is doing this to get people to buy the new products, but at the same time, if that's all they're worried about, that's bad business. But from my understanding is sometimes in the business world, you gotta be a little bit greedy. Me personally, I just don't really like to see that. So if they are gonna be greedy, you gotta do something to not show that. So I don't know. That's what companies are trying to do. At least that's what I'm hoping, right, Apple? But anyway, that's all I have to say. What do you guys think about this? Do you guys think the iPod line is gonna be dead eventually? Do you think Apple's making the right decision here? If they are gonna go with this, or do you feel like Apple is trying to hide something? Leave your comments down below. Thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe, rate, comment. Also check my description below for the social media links, Twitter and Instagram. I will see you guys in the next one. Take care.